Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Awfully Giddy. I hate you.
That was so good.
Yay, another episode.
I don't like that. TikTok. I don't have a TikTok. I don't want one. You like the subway? Let's get one thing straight. I am a stage manager, not a theater kid. Season 2, Who Will Survive? What's up, you awfully giddy people out there? See, this is good because every time you keep talking, you just prove my point more by making more lines. Alright. I was gonna introduce y'all. Do you want to be introduced?
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
Yes, please.
God, it's not special. I'm just gonna.
No, like, give me a
Joining me
little
to-
compliment too. Don't be shy, you know?
A compliment. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I have to compliment my co-hosts now.
Yeah, you know.
Dang,
That's
you're
a little
acting
scary.
like we're doing this podcast under a business contract. Come on. So if you're not supposed to let them know that just yet.
It's all fake. Joining me today are the three people who are always also on this podcast with me. We have Margot,
Oink.
Sella,
Hi.
So we're really just not gonna go with the animal
Do
noise
we do an
introduction
animal
then.
Give a little something.
Art?
What was that? That was aardvark.
that was beautiful. And last but certainly not least, the illustrious, glorious,
Oh my god.
pink-haired beauty, Mace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I try very hard. And as always, I am Soph. And before we begin, I just want to apologize to you guys because I was kind of caught 4K HD in a lie. I completely lied to you guys. And you can find this lie actually on Margot's Extras episode that is on YouTube.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So,
I'm
I
scared.
mean, do you guys have
What's
any
the
idea
lie?
about what I lied about?
Margot's extra?
Yeah, it was Margot's
So
Extras.
that was the WikiHow stuff.
I said something like point blank, and then a day later I was like, nah.
Wasn't it like you were gonna research podcasts?
Was
Ding,
it
ding,
there's not
ding.
enough information on podcasts? Are we gonna learn about podcasts today?
We're going to learn a little bit about podcasts today.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Before I was like, oh, I just don't have enough information. It's not going to be interesting. It's just going to be me talking about podcasts on a podcast. I was like, nobody. But then I came up with a second part. We're going to be, this episode is going to be two parts. One is going to be this is all the stuff that I learned. And it's not just going to be me info dumping because I'll be asking questions and you guys can come in whenever you want. And then the second half is going to be a game, which I will introduce later on.
I love games. So
question.
Essentially what you're saying, TLDR, you gaslit us.
I
No,
kind of
literally.
did. I kind of did. I was like,
Breaking news, Soph's a gaslighter.
all right, I have because of course I made a slideshow of all the stuff that I need to know. So I'm not looking at your faces. I'm looking at a slideshow.
Yes.
All right. Because today we're going to be talking about podcasts within this here podcast. Podcast-ception, if you will. Feel free to interject whatever you want to. I don't have a plan. Not like that. Don't do that.
Oink, 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 oink.
Animal sounds are not a valid objection.
How about sirens?
Yeah, there's sirens.
I did hear the siren outside. I did hear that. So I'm starting off just with a question. When did you first hear about podcasts? And what was your initial impression of them? If you don't have, because I have a very specific memory of learning what a podcast is. And I don't know if anyone else has this at all, or if they were they just woke up one day and were like, yeah, I know what a podcast is.
I don't think I have a cement memory of it, but I feel like the first podcast I listened to was, funny enough, Emma Chamberlain's podcast.
Oh, I think she has one.
Yeah, I don't know when that was.
Probably a few years ago, right?
Yeah, probably.
Does she still do that?
I have no clue.
Okay.
I do not know. I don't go out to find podcasts. I usually, like, if I have a YouTuber I like and they start a podcast, I'll listen to their podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. The first podcast I ever listened to was Welcome to Night Vale, except I didn't know it was a podcast because I listened to it on YouTube. So I was like, oh my gosh, this fun YouTube thing I'm listening to. And so then the first time I ever started consciously being aware of podcasts was like 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Really?
You mean before we started our
Yeah, literally.
podcast?
When the idea came to you to be like, let's start a podcast.
We started this less than 6 months ago, right, guys? When did we start this?
We
did, but that's like half a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we started talking about it in November. I don't distinctly remember, but I think it kind of started picking up for me when I was on, I would say, like 10th or 11th grade of high school, because I remember this one English class. It was like a college credit one. I wasn't in it, but some of my friends were. And I think one of like the material that was like required from all of them was to listen to a crime one. It's one of the more popular ones. And then I started listening to it.
Do you remember what it was called?
I feel like it had one word.
It was like a one-word title.
It's probably like, is there one called like Serial or something?
Oh, yeah, there is.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was that one.
I know that because that was on a game show that I just watched, and they were talking
really?
about podcasts. Yeah, they were like, "What's the
Jeopardy?
most popular podcast?" No, actually, The Chase.
Oh. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, I remember hearing about that, and then I listened to. I didn't finish it, but I think how they did it was like they would do one case per season or something like that. And then I wanted to pick up on listening to more podcasts, so I would listen to like the A24 one over the summer when I worked out, which is kind of a weird like thing to do, but it was very interesting. It was very interesting. And then I'm kind of picking up on it again especially because we're doing our podcast.
Yeah. No, I mean, as you all know, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them. My first vivid memory of a podcast was driving in the car with my dad. I don't know if I was in middle school or high school. It was probably like in between those two times where it's like all a blur, where you go from middle school to high school and you're like, it's the same thing, but I'm older now. We were driving in the car and he put on this thing and I was like, this isn't music. Why aren't we listening to music in the car, Father? And he was like, no. It's a podcast. And it was the podcast that Neil deGrasse Tyson does about space. And I was like, yeah, because he loves space and all that stuff. And I just remember thinking, this is boring. Put on music. I'm just going to get into some quick history about the podcast. But before I do, I'm going to do a little disclaimer. And editor, if we could just speed up this disclaimer by times 1.5 speed, I think that would be good. Soph's information in this episode of Awfully Giddy was acquired from very brief, low-effort Google searches. Wikipedia is used as a primary source for the information in the episode because screw it, I don't need to cite everything in APA format. If you use this information as a cool party trick and get absolutely obliterated because someone at this party knows more about podcasts than you do, Awfully Giddy cannot be held legally accountable. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer, please check section B7 on the consent form you had to fill out to listen to this podcast. Message and data rates may apply. All right. So
that was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Just wanted to, cover all of our legal bases, all that fun stuff.
Beautiful.
All right. So we're starting with the question, because these are just genuine things that I wanted to know. What is a podcast? What counts as a podcast? I personally am not going to be recounting how the radio got made, how audio dramas got started in the US in the 1920s, or how that one audio drama about like aliens, there's like an audio drama like it was about aliens in space, and they put it out there and everyone listened to it, and mass panic spread because everyone thought it was real and that aliens were coming to planet Earth.
Stop.
Yeah, so that was a
I
thing.
remember that.
But we're not going to go over that today because audio dramas and the radio are not podcasts. Our dear friend Merriam-Webster.com defines a podcast as, quote, a program as of music or talk made available in digital format for automatic download over the internet. And since the radio was invented before the internet, it is not a podcast. It's also not edited, and it can sometimes be over the internet, but there's a clear line, so I'm not talking about that, and it would also take too long. I am instead going into this as a Hollywood executive producer, and as we know, every Hollywood producer needs to take the story, an origin story, and just, cram it down to the bare stereotypes and bones. So the basics of the story is that we have two guys who are broadly given the title of, creator of the podcast or whatever. One is our radio man / our like idea person. He's got the idea. He's so cool, blah, blah, blah. Adam Curry. And he worked at a private radio station in Amsterdam in the early 1890s. 1980s. That's a very important. It was not the 1990s.
Yeah, the internet was.
Man, these podcasts have
Listeners,
been
I
around for
again
a while.
beg you to listen to the disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. And he actually worked at a pirate radio station, which is basically a radio station that broadcasts without a valid license. So it wasn't super legal. But yeah, and then, he eventually went on to do bigger things in radio. He became really big legally. Hooray. Yeah, and that's really all you need to know about Adam Curry. Then we have David Weiner. He is our tech guy. So we got idea man and tech guy. David Weiner created Scripting News, which is a web blog that started in 1997 that is, according to our man Dave, the longest continuously running weblog on the internet. So we love a trailblazer.
Trailblazer.
Yeah. He is credited with creating the podcast model and defining a new element called enclosure, which passed the address of a media file to the RSS aggregator. Right?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
what
that is.
does that mean? I asked myself as I read the sentence on Wikipedia. Let me tell you.
What does that mean as I produce a podcast myself?
What is it?
What is
some legal
RSS?
contract? Yeah.
What is it? Let me tell you, it took way too long to figure out what this sentence meant because I ended up just Googling what each individual word that I didn't understand meant. So RSS stands for, now get ready, really simple syndication.
No.
Bruh.
Yeah. So RSS is really simple syndication, and it feeds information about your show and episodes basically into a part of the internet. And to aggregate, that means to combine in some way. So basically what that really annoyingly complicated sentence is saying is that David allowed any media file to be placed on a website. And that led to audio blogging.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all of it.
No, that's actually really cool.
Okay.
That was really simple.
Oh my gosh. Awfully Giddy is RS. Really simple.
Really stupid.
RSS. Really stupid, simple. Really simply stupid.
Really? Ooh.
Okay, my dad used to say "keep it simple, stupid." Is that something?
KISS
your
is a
family said?
design
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
acronym. Yeah, keep
A
it simple,
design
stupid.
thing. I know it from the gym when my coach would be like, "Keep it simple, stupid." No, I'm just I love my coach. No.
Are they yelling that at you? Question mark.
No. I was the captain. He couldn't yell at me. I was yelling at the other kids that.
Oh. Okay.
Margot, I didn't know you were buff.
Yeah, I'm actually secretly buff, dog. You can't see it. It's hidden
Oh yeah.
under my lean muscles.
I think we've mentioned this one before. Big muscles.
Yeah.
Big muscle Margot.
Moose school.
BMM, Big Muscle Margot. Okay, so back to the history of the podcast. Now that we've met our radio man, Adam Curry, and tech man, David Weiner, how they met, and this is in, I read a couple articles about it. There's a very specific quote that is in every article about how they met. So they basically met in the year 2000 in a, quote, fancy rock star hype type hotel, unquote, that they could not remember what the name was. So all we know that it was very fancy and it was very rock star like. So
It's the Hard Rock Cafe in Cleveland.
Yeah, no, probably.
Stop. I got one of those over here too.
hey.
No, that's literally. Have you been to like the museum?
I have rock and roll.
Mhm. That's that. They stay there actually. Fun fact. I asked that myself.
Yeah, Mace actually met all
No,
two
I
of
didn't.
them.
Wow.
All
You
two.
there?
Yeah, I actually was.
That's
In
amazing.
the
Before-
1980s.
I came right out of the womb, and I was like doing stuff with them. So
Oh my gosh. Were you
I
the
am a curator.
podcast they
One with the
created?
crew. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, actually.
So in that, quote, fancy rock star type hotel room, Adam basically had like contacted Dave and he was like, Dave, I've got this super cool idea. All right. And he basically just explained what a podcast was to Dave. And he was like, Dave, I need you got to do this for me, man. You're the tech guy. You got to put it all together, ones and zeros. And Dave, the man that he is, didn't understand exactly what Adam was saying because as we have established, Adam is the idea guy and Dave's the tech guy. But he was like, Adam, I'll give it a try, all right? So in 2001, Dave created the first podcast feed, and in order to test it out, he just like put it on a random website, and it was this monumental moment that nobody cared about because nobody knew it existed. Yeah, so that is what happened. Obviously, it took off. But to know why it took off, we have to get into why it is called a podcast, because it wasn't called a podcast when it was first made in 2001. Does anybody know why it's called a podcast? Because I genuinely did not know why it was called a podcast before I researched all this stuff.
Is the casting part because of broadcast?
Yeah, that's how I would assume.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, you're
I
right.
don't know.
Broadcasting is part of it.
Okay.
So is it like how Pokemon is Pocket Monster? Is it like that, or like the pod is like the first part of a
It's
like a word?
pod soil.
Okay.
Pod soil.
Soil?
Pod.
Pedantic. Wait, no.
Panama.
Panama.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Panama broadcast. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm,
I
that's
really
it.
wish that was correct. In reality, this is my favorite person that I looked up. So his name, the person given the credit to the word podcast, his name is Ben Hammersley. And he coined the term podcast in an article that he was writing for The Guardian. And he apparently said, and this was also, this quote was in multiple articles. He apparently said, quote, "It's a dumb thing I made up in about 5 seconds while trying to pad that article out to make it fit the page. very close to the deadline, unquote. So,
Yo. My
we love a
man.
procrastinator.
Mm.
So podcast is actually the blend of the word iPod and broadcasting.
iPod.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes.
Wow.
So the reason
I
why
like Panama.
Ben chose iPod and not literally anything else was because podcasting became extremely popular on Apple's iPod, and it was really only taken seriously after Steve Jobs demonstrated how you could create a podcast from an Apple device, and that's when people really started to like think, oh, podcasting, that's actually something that's going to take off. It's going to be really popular, all that stuff.
Wait, question.
Mm-hmm.
When was that term coined again?
I will look up when.
Because now that I remember, my sister's iPod Nano, which is actually in my backpack. 1 second.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, oh my
I
gosh,
would just-
I had an iPod Nano. Mine was purple.
Aw, I don't think I had a Nano. I think my sister did. I stole it or something. Who knows?
My iPod Nano exploded.
This little guy, I remember, does have a podcast tab.
Mhm.
And I was like, wait, it makes sense now.
So
Aw.
he published that Guardian article in February of 2004. So that's when podcast, I don't know, became universally used. Switching slides here. I have some quick stats that are courtesy of designbombs.com/podcast-statistics-research. The first one, I don't know if I agree with, because I consider myself a regular podcast listener. But according to them, in 2001, these are stats from specifically the US in 2001, a regular podcast listener consumes an average of 6 different podcasts per week. But here's the thing. I don't know if this means podcast as in shows or episodes, because I certainly don't consume 6 shows a week. I definitely consume 6 episodes per week.
It probably means episodes, I would
Yeah.
hope.
That's a lot of content.
It's a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I am not the average podcast listener then. It's been a long time since I've consumed a podcast episode, let alone a podcast show.
52% of listeners apparently finish the entire podcast episode. So here's the thing. When I start a podcast episode, I finish it. Have you ever not finished a podcast episode? Or
Absolutely.
Yes, but I'll try to go back to it. Like there's like a series of episodes, I try not to go to the next until I finish the one, even if it doesn't matter because it's not continuous.
See, like, I think it never occurs to me that I can stop listening. If I
You're
start
stuck
something,
forever.
I just keep going. It's like the same with videos or like movies. Like, I've just realized I can stop watching something if I don't like it. I don't know. I've always just finished
Putting
it.
yourself through misery. I'll stop it because I don't know if I have to do something
Yeah,
or whatever.
Mhm.
But then I'll forget about it, and then I'll start a new episode. I'll forget that I've did not finish the other one.
Mhm. See, I'll stop listening to a show, like a podcast show, like with consecutive episodes that I listen to, when I finish an episode and I think back and I can't remember what that episode is about. That's how I know it's time to stop.
Yep.
All right. And then one of our last facts is that 74% of people listen to podcasts to learn new things. So I guess you might be learning something new if you're listening to this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
I certainly am.
I would say I just like to hear people talk
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily like searching for information. I just need background noise.
It's a little bit of both for me because it's something that's like, again, the just background noise, but also like depending on the type of podcast, I like to, it could even just be general lore. And I'm like, oh, like I'll see the description and I'm like, I would love to learn more about this situation.
I really only listen to podcasts if I know the people. Like, I only listen to like
yeah.
YouTubers or streamers that I watch.
Yeah,
Because
same.
for me to listen to a podcast, I can't listen to it while I work. I have to like, because I get distracted, you know what I mean? I have to like
Same.
sit
Yeah.
down and I'm like, I'm going to listen to this podcast right now. So I sit down and I close my eyes and I listen.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't focus if I don't do that. So
No, yeah. I'll
Is
like
it
space out.
Yeah, because it's people talking, and it's hard to. I feel like it's harder to pay attention, especially if it's informational like that. It's harder to like do something else while also trying to take in that, unless you purposefully want it as background noise.
Mm-hmm. No, there are definitely shows where I'm like, I physically can't do anything else if I'm listening to it.
No,
or like
yeah.
Mhm.
or like at least I can like draw while I listen to it, and that's it. That's like the only
Yeah.
thing my brain can handle. So this last little tidbit is actually going to answer a question that, or I guess it wasn't a question that Mace had, but you mentioned something earlier about like the categories of podcasts and what are popular or not. So I'm asking you guys, and you guys can conglomerate into a group and talk about and like come up with an answer to this. But in 2021, what do you guys think were the top 5 categories for podcasts in the US?
politics,
Off the bat.
entertainment, cooking. Yeah, that's all I got.
Wait, is this top 5? Top
Like, how specific are we getting? Because for sure know lots of people watch like crime.
Mhm.
Ooh, true
Yeah.
crime.
So it's like
So
that
would,
kind
would
of
that be like?
that is like one. I would say that is like
Okay.
a category. Yeah. And like
Okay.
Margot was saying, the categories that she put out there, like you said cooking or whatever, like those categories with that's what we're looking for, something like that.
Okay.
Top
Yeah.
5.
True crime. Politics.
What's
is
like? What?
gaming? Gaming. Is there
I
a
feel like,
gaming
yeah.
pod? Yeah.
There probably is.
Just like talking. What's just like casual chit chat?
Just
Variety,
chatting.
like a variety
Right.
show.
Just chatting.
Just chatting.
Okay, so
Is
we
there
got,
like? Is it like informational? Like, what's the genre where you learn something? Like history maybe, or like
I think that
Not
or
this
was that-
podcast.
Yeah, not this one, please.
Comedy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a popular one actually. Yeah.
And one
I feel like
more.
comedy would be a good one.
Wait, so what do we
So
have?
comedy, true crime, politics,
Politics.
gaming.
I thought cooking was good.
Was cooking the other one?
Cooking. I feel like cooking could be up there.
Mhm.
I don't know about cooking podcasts.
Yeah.
That's
I
true, because
don't-
that's more of a visual thing.
That is. more
Oh,
of a
what about
visual thing.
spiritual?
Oh.
Is that like, do you think it's popular?
I would think so,
Actually,
especially during the
maybe it
pandemic.
is. Yeah,
I would think.
True.
that actually might be. This is 2021.
Yeah.
No, this is
I'm
2022.
I'm sure there's some like gospel podcast or something.
Yeah, there definitely are. I think we could go with spiritual then.
Is that our final answer?
All right, repeat the 5. Give us just the list of the 5 again. 1,
True crime.
2.
Wait, not in a
Oh.
specific order though.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Not yeah. Okay, true
1,
crime.
2,
Gaming.
Comedy.
3,
Gaming.
4,
Spiritual.
5.
Politics.
Yeah.
What haven't we said yet?
Yeah, that was everything.
I think you got everything.
Politics, gaming, true crime, comedy, spiritual.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like
So from this website, which had like a whole bunch of data about 2021 podcasts in the U.S., they had like little bar graphs that like showed all the categories, and I just took the top 5. So I'm gonna start from the 5th. The 5th category was health and fitness.
that would have been a good one.
The 4th category was sport.
Ew. That's the same thing as health and fitness.
For a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
The third category was true crime. So you got that one.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Second was news. So I would clump that in with like politics and stuff.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think of
That's all they would talk about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think of NPR.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then the number one was comedy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did we say comedy?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you said
we
it.
did.
Yeah.
We did say comedy.
Yes.
That works for us because we're technically comedy based.
So we're the number one podcast in the U.S.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Obviously.
saying.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much. We
Okay.
In
beat true
2021.
crime.
Yeah.
We even beat news.
Yeah, before we even existed. No, actually, we did. We did late.
Yeah, 2021.
2021.
That's where
We
the
made it- wait,
statistics comes from.
We made our mark right away.
And I
You're
will
number
say,
one.
Thank you,
Mace.
listeners.
So religion/spiritual was like at the top. It was like probably like 6th or 7th. So you're
Wait,
pretty
so
close
you're
with
really
that one.
close.
Yeah, I know.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made the list actually.
You are the stats.
I am the stats. I
You
am
are
every
every
and all
podcast
podcasts.
listener.
Not only did you create the podcast, you
I
are
am.
the
I
stats.
listen. I produce. I am everything in and outside of podcasts.
Wow.
Whoa.
I'm pretty much an enigma at this point.
No, literally.
And with that, that ends the first little segment where we learned just a little bit more about podcasts.
Yay!
Yeah. In our next segment, our co-hosts are going to get a little creative. So grab your popcorn. Welcome back, everyone. It is time for the fun game portion of this podcast. We are going to play the game, What's That Podcast About? Where I will give you a podcast that I have listened to, just the title of it, and you guys are going to give me an intricately detailed summary of what that podcast is about.
Let's go.
Oh goodness gracious!
So I will
Okay.
be. So first, you're just going to get the title of the podcast, and then I will give you the cover art, and I will also like describe what the cover art looks like for a little bit. However, after we get the cover art, you can either A, add one sentence onto your description, or B, leave your description as is. And then I will award a point to one person for each podcast based on descriptiveness, so like how much you describe about it, and accuracy, how accurate it is to the actual plot or like summary of the podcast.
Do we have to buzz in?
So I was planning on either having it go Margot May Sella Margot Sella, you know, blah blah blah, and like switch every time, or you guys just get 15 seconds to like think about what you want to say, and then we'll just go in order. What would you guys prefer?
Let's
That one.
think.
Yeah, we could do the latter.
Okay, cool. So, are we ready for our first podcast?
Woo.
Yes.
All right. Our first podcast title is Con Artists.
No, because you told me about this. I feel like you did.
I also wanna say that I know what podcast that I talked about with Mace on our radio show, and I know that Margot has listened to Welcome to Night Vale, so I tried to pick podcasts that you have not heard before.
Okay.
So it'll be like a blank slate. But yeah, Con Artists is the first title of our podcast. If you're listening on YouTube or some other place where you can comment, you can go ahead and play along.
So we're coming up with a description, right? Is it like with what we think this is?
Yeah,
what
just
it
like
is?
an intricately detailed description. I will set a timer for like 30 seconds. How about?
Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Go. Okay. That has been 30 seconds.
Oh,
Do we have a volunteer for first, or are we just going to have me pick someone?
I'll go first.
All right, Margot, hit me.
Con Artist, the podcast form of Impractical Jokers, combines with Harry Houdini. Con Artist is a podcast about funny escape artists that tell you tips and tricks on how to escape from kidnappers. And they're funny.
All right.
It's pretty good.
Very interesting description. Who would like to go next?
Can I go next?
Yes, Sella.
Okay. I believe Con Artist is a podcast that's narrative fictional based with a ragtag team of people who, they con their way through life. And so I assume each episode is on a fun little shenanigan of theirs.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful description. And Mace?
Oh, dear Lord. Okay. I believe Con Artist is composed of two people, most likely feminine presenting, who each day, or they post, it'll be like, all right, kind of like how we have like a Mace version, So version kind of vibe. They will each bring something to the table. One of them has a niche interest in true crime. The other has a niche in paranormal. And they go back and forth and tell different little stories each episode.
All right. I love all of these descriptions. Like, we should make all of these podcasts.
And they're all very different from each other, too. So
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
so
let you
I'm
know when
going-
I have just this wealth of knowledge of how to escape from handcuffs, Soph. Then we can get together.
It'll be
That's a
super
wiki
important,
how.
yeah.
That is a wiki how. It's probably it's in there.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to show you the cover art. To recap, you can either keep your description the same or you can add one sentence. As soon as the picture pops up, I will start the 30 seconds and I will also just describe what the cover looks like to the listeners. Ready?
Cool.
All right.
I'm scared.
So on screen, we have a very black-gray image. It has the words "a Spotify original" at the top. Near the middle, it has Podcast Con Artists. In the middle, there is also a hand that is reaching out, kind of like if you were holding out your hand for money. That is what I can best describe this image as. And that has also been 30 seconds. So,
No way.
yeah.
No. Oh my god. Oh, okay.
So,
Right.
okay, who would like to add a sentence to their description? Everyone or no one?
Me.
I think everyone.
Me.
Okay, everyone. All right. Well, we'll go in the order that we presented first. So we'll start with Margot.
Okay. My extra sentence would be, listeners to the previous description, please strike comedy from your mind. This is not a funny podcast. This is entirely serious.
I love that.
I love that. All right, Sella.
Along with their scheming, they try to haggle their way with prices.
Okay. And Mace.
Not gonna add much, but all stories that are told are true, or at least based on truth.
All right. So I will reveal. So, okay. I'm going to reveal who was closest first, and then I'll give the little spiel about what it's actually about. I'm going to give this point to Mace.
Ooh.
Mace had home advantage. Home advantage.
So Con Artists is about exactly what it says, con artists. Basically, it's all like true stories about con artists that have existed. There are 2 episodes devoted to each con, and they go over the life of the con artists, speculating about certain reasons they decide to devote their life to crime, and all that fun stuff. I haven't listened to it in a while, to be completely honest, but I really like the one about Franziska Schenkowski. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and how she pretended or like fooled people into thinking that she was the Princess Anastasia.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's con artist. Also, I'm going to give you guys 40 seconds just because I feel like 30 seconds is really quick.
I mean,
Unless you want to do 30 seconds.
I kind of like the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
all
like
right,
it.
30
Let's
seconds
do
then.
30.
No, absolutely. Are we ready for the next title?
Yes.
As soon as
Wait,
the
can I add
title
something?
Yes.
I would like to say that I forgot con artists are not only capitalists. Like, I forgot it doesn't have to do with money. I kind of forgot about that part. I'm not gonna lie.
Sometimes, though.
Yeah,
a lot of the
I
times
related
it's
it to
money.
Yeah, a lot of times it's money, but when you put out a princess, I was like, oh.
Yeah, same. Especially because the
I forgot
hand.
about that.
I think that's the thing. The hand happened, and Soph saying like
Like,
hand
gimme,
like
gimme.
for money.
I did describe it like that, yeah.
Yeah,
All
when
right,
I heard
makes
that, I
sense.
was like, I'm not right.
Margot, I
But
love
I'm gonna stick with it.
I want a comedy podcast about con artists now.
I think that's
Thank
fine.
I think
you.
that would be
Thank
fun.
you.
That would be very fun.
All right, are we ready for the second podcast?
Yes.
Yes.
As soon as the title pops up, your 30 seconds start.
All right.
Go.
Oh.
Stellar
No.
Firma. If you recall, Stellar Firma was mentioned in the very first episode
I
of
know.
our podcast.
No, don't dance. Don't dance. You're not allowed- no.
And it was about it was my comfort media. So I have described what this podcast was about. Stellar
Crap.
Firma.
Oh, this is gonna be so embarrassing because I feel like what if I? Because okay.
Get your little victory dance.
And that was 30 seconds.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
Who would like to go first?
I'm gonna rip the band-aid off and I'm just gonna go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Stellar Firma is about a futuristic universe where you have a feminine protagonist who is doing things to save this stellar universe, if you will. And she has extraterrestrial powers, and every other being in that area is an alien. And she's the only human.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That is a wonderful description. Who would like to go next? I'm trying to be as impartial as possible.
Actually,
next?
have me go last. Have me
Okay,
go last.
Margot, you're next.
Just because I.
Okay. Well, listeners, Stellar Firma is quite clearly a fictional podcast with some fictional characters and some major lore involved. Now, I'm talking deep, heavy lore. Now, as you can see, the title Stellar Firma, there is some stellar lore. We're talking space, we're talking stars, we're talking rootin' tootin' cowboys with their laser revolvers. And I'm pretty firma on this one, guys.
Ayo!
Margot, that
That
was
was good.
a very vague description. Stella.
What do you mean? I said lots of words. Come on now.
Stella, last but not
Okay.
least.
So I'm gonna describe this as best as possible, so do it justice. But isn't it basically an RPG based podcast where they will have different themed RPGs, and I remember, if I am right, one of them was based off like a whole team of them in space, and then they kind of improvised everything there, hence like the RPG stuff. And yeah, that was such a bad description.
Stella, thank you for your description. Next, I will describe and show the cover art. Are we ready?
Yes.
Here we go. On
Oh,
screen
wow.
is a black square. In the middle, you have a circle with some grid lines on it, and around the circle, kind of like the rings of Saturn, is just like a hammer that has been just like put around like the rings of Saturn. Instead of having the rings of Saturn, it's a hammer. That's what it is. And underneath are the words Stellar Firma. There are stars in the background as well. And that has been 30 seconds. Mace, would you like to add a sentence?
Yes. Nair, not feminine protagonist. No. It's Handy Manny, simulation version.
Wonderful. Margot?
Yeah, so these rootin' tootin' people in space are not cowboys with laser guns. They're actually this firm, Stellar Firma, this firm of a handyman with their hammers, and they go fix planets. That's their lore in this podcast.
That was more than one sentence.
No, that was a run-on sentence.
It's a run-on sentence.
This is a really long sentence. Stella, you're up.
I will not add anything else to it.
Okay. I'm going to give this... All right, this is going to be controversial, and I'm going to explain why I'm giving it to this person. I'm going to give it to Margot.
No.
I already know, because I feel like Margot actually explained it really well.
Because even though it was very vague, she was the only one that kind of grasped the building planets. So stellar firma, and I took this directly from, Spotify and wherever you can listen to it because it's kind of difficult for me to explain, but it is a science fiction comedy podcast following Stellar Firma Limited's highest born but lowest achieving planetary designer, Trexel Geisman, and his bewildered clone assistant, David Seven. And they take listener submissions and they craft them into designed planets, and it is basically all improvised. So it's not RPG, but it is improvised. And there is underlying
lore.
There is lore underneath there. Yeah.
Can I interject?
Mm-hmm.
Soph, I'm very sorry. I mixed up the podcast.
No,
You
it's
played
okay.
this one too for
I
me.
was.
You
I
played
remember
like the first 2 episodes.
You got it
I'm
mixed
so
up because
sorry,
they
Soph.
played an RPG thing as an extra episode in Stellar Firma, so I see where you made that connection.
Yeah. And it's some of the same voice actors too, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
All right. But I mean, all in all, pretty good job, guys. This one's a weird one to explain, so I think you did pretty well. Are we ready for the next podcast?
Woo.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Your time starts now. Our next podcast is titled The Bechdel Cast. The Bechdel Cast.
I'm done for.
Oh, wait.
My days
I
end
barely
here.
thought, and I'm like...
I already know. Let's go.
I know a little bit of what
Oh,
this
shoot,
could be.
Margot,
How do
have
you
you
know?
listened to
I'm
this?
Just because of the
I have
title.
not. So
Oh.
I'm
How do you
purely
know?
guessing.
Okay.
Based off something.
So then we'll have Mace go first.
No.
Yeah, we'll have you go first.
That
Okay.
is 30 seconds. You can do it, Mace. It's okay. You got this.
The first thing that came to my head was a little German boy.
Yeah.
Another German boy who talks like this.
And Deutsch.
Like you guys haven't seen Fruits Basket, so you're not gonna understand. Okay? I think Momiji is. I don't know if he's German or I think he's German, but he talks like really high pitched and sing songy almost.
Aww.
And so that's what I pictured: little tiny blonde German boy, and specifically the Epcot variation of Germany, because that's the only knowledge of Germany I have.
What's that TikTok audio where it's like Fortnite, Coca-Cola? You know that one?
That's what this little boy sounds like.
Danglish.
And I don't know what he's doing there, but he's eating a caramel apple.
Aww.
Wait, no, I have lore. He is from Germany, but 1937 Germany.
So, like...
We could get morbid, but we're not gonna get morbid.
God.
Okay, wait, hold on. I retract my statement. 1739. 1739. Okay, no.
What, did Germany
17
exist in 1739?
Yeah, let's just say yes. I'm sure it has. I feel like
At least, German-speaking places, at least.
Well, they wouldn't call it
Well-
German back then, would they?
but okay, whenever the chronological timing of the cute little German aesthetic that is in all the Grimm's fairy tales kind of vibe,
Oh.
whenever that time period is, that's more 1800s. This little boy, he did something. Oh my gosh, wait. He fell into a hole. And then he went to Epcot 2021. Children everywhere. Very confused. Doesn't know what a caramel apple is eating it anyway.
Mace, that is the best description I have ever heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who would like to go
It's the
next?
right one.
Maybe.
No, I love that description. I don't know if I can top that one. I'm gonna be honest. I could go next.
All right, go ahead, Sella.
Okay. The Bechdel the Bechdel Cast is about. I would say this is what is it called? Non-fiction based. And I would say that there's a group of people who talk about if a movie passes the Bechdel test. Which, listeners, if you do not know, actually, I don't even know if I can be comprehensive with this without possibly being inaccurate. But basically, it has something to do with women characters in movies and the amount of times they talk to each other.
And if it's about a man or not.
If it's about a man or not. And if it passes, it does the bare minimum.
That is all.
Oh, sorry, Soph.
Yeah, go ahead,
didn't mean to
Margo.
cut you off there. No. I also agree with Sella. However, I'm going to change it slightly. A group, because we're in a cast, a group of women talking about movies if they pass the Bechdel test. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to give you the cover art. Ready? Go.
Oh my
So
I love
listeners,
it. That's actually so cool.
yeah, the
Is that
cover
a tiny
art
German
is
boy?
like a bunch of cartoon female characters, and they are standing behind like a film projector type thing, and it says the Bechdel Cast on
Feel
it.
real.
Are those boobs?
Are those boobs? Big boobs.
Y'all.
Are they deflated boobs?
Yo, what are
You have
right
5
there?
seconds.
Those are deflated boobs.
All right, 30 seconds are up. Who would like to change or add a
I like
sentence?
that you said there's no German boy.
I'm gonna add a sentence.
Go ahead.
The person taking this picture is the tiny German boy. He is a amateur photographer, and this is his start.
Mm-hmm. All right, anyone else
Very
want
much
to add a sentence to their description?
I have no need to add. My description is solid.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep mine.
All right. I'm going to give everybody a point for this one because
Now,
mostly because hold on. Let me explain myself. Because Mace, I want a podcast with the little German boy. And
Same.
for not knowing what the Bechdel test was or like not being able to piece that together, I think you came up with a really, really good podcast idea. And also I'm giving it to Margo and Sella because you did guess it correctly. It is a podcast about the portrayal of women in movies. It's named after the test, the Bechdel test, which basically is like, are there two women? Do they talk to each other about something that isn't a man? And they go through different movies and they, assess the movies from their own point of view. And at the end, they acknowledge like, hey, does it pass the Bechdel test? Yay, you did the bare minimum, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what it's about.
May I add?
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to say I incorporated Disney, and Moana is that Moana?
That is Moana. You're
yeah.
correct.
That is Moana.
Yeah.
Moana is on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, I'm
No, yeah.
a genius.
That's the thing. I saw that too, and I was like, you have the Disney idea.
I am a genius.
Mhm.
Just saying, just letting that be
Because you
known.
did mention Epcot.
Yes, specifically Disney, Epcot, and Florida.
Yeah. So everyone gets a point.
Florida.
Good job, guys.
Yay. Make sure to catch the rest of Soph's podcast game on episode 5 extras on our YouTube channel at Awfully Giddy. Make sure to like and subscribe.
This has been the first episode of Awfully Giddy, Soph's version. I hope you enjoyed. We're signing off. I'm Soph.
I'm Sella.
I'm Mace.
And I'm Margo.
Bye. 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 Bye.